Most students revise by rewriting their notes, and then they walk into the exam and fail. I don't do that. Okay, this is my final year transcript. As we can see, after I implement many study strategies, I'm getting amazing percentages. And before, again, not getting very bad, but definitely nowhere near as amazing as the second lot. And then, of course, I got the prize for ranking first. So if that isn't enough evidence, I don't know what is. Since A-levels, I've used one revision method for every single closed book exam. I used it through uni, I used it with the students I tutor, and it's the only thing I care about once exams actually start. It's not a summary sheet, it's a cheat sheet. Think of your brain like it has recurring bugs. Most students just reread the manual. They never fix the bug, they just hope it won't show up again. My cheat sheet is basically patch notes. Every time I mess something up, it gets logged. That's it. When I first started revising properly, I noticed tiny things I kept forgetting. A definition, a formula step, a structure mistake in an essay. I'd write these up on random post-it notes. Then I'd lose the post-it notes. Then I'd lose the same marks again. It was disorganized. The same mistakes kept showing up because there was no system tracking them. So I folded one A4 page in half lengthways and decided everything I consistently get wrong goes on here. Nowhere else. And that's the rule. This is not something that you start during lectures. You don't build this whilst you're still allowed to look at your notes. You start this when you switch to closed book exam practice. The cheat sheet begins the moment you're testing yourself properly. And there are only two things that go on it. If you've never missed it in a question, it doesn't go on here. If you've missed it twice, it goes on. If it's a recurring silly mistake that keeps costing you marks, it goes on. That's it. Not, this seems important. Not, I might forget this. Only proven weaknesses. That forces the cheat sheet to reflect reality and not your anxieties. Let me show you what actually goes on mine. On one side, I'll have worked examples I kept messing up. Maybe I kept dropping a step in a derivation. Maybe I lost 4 marks across 2 past papers because I structured a long answer question badly. The exact fix goes on the sheet. Then, there are technical slips. For example, I once kept mixing up notation in a module. Same concept, wrong symbol. Lost marks twice. That line went onto sheet in big writing. Then structure reminders, things like define the key term before evaluating, state the assumption before solving, compare before concluding. These are tiny prompts to my future self. And sometimes it's literally a one-line note, like don't skip the diagram. Or a note calling myself names for making a silly mistake. A little clownery goes a long way. Every single line on that page has evidence behind it. A past mistake, a lost mark, a pattern. At the beginning of revision, that sheet might have 25 to 30 entries. By the middle, it's around 15. By exam week, I've usually shrunk it once or twice. The final version might only have 8 to 10 core traps left. Because if something stops being a weakness, it doesn't need to live on the cheat sheet anymore. That's the whole point. Now here's what happens over time. All of your weak points live in one place. You're doing practice questions every day. You're checking answers. You're logging mistakes. You're reviewing that same sheet daily. You've seen those same 10 to 20 weak points at least 20 times. So they stop being weak. By the final week, nothing new is being added. That's the signal. Your errors aren't recurring anymore. And because everything was concentrated onto one A4 page, you can almost visualize it in your head. You know where things sit on the page. You can mentally picture it. That's very different from having 200 pages of scattered notes. You're not trying to remember everything from the module. You're remembering only your failures. And once you've fixed those, the exam becomes predictable. This works for essay subjects, it works for math, it works for science, it works anywhere you're losing marks for repeatable reasons. I've used it across modules. I've seen students I tutor use it and stop repeating the same mistakes within 2 weeks of exam practice. The reason it works is simple. It's targeted. You don't need more notes. You need a system that tracks your errors and forces you to fix them. If you want to see how I structure my entire exam revision system around this, including how I do past papers, how I schedule practice, and how this fits into getting top grades, watch this full video breakdown I've linked for you. But start with this your next exam season. Fold one A4 sheet, wait until you're doing proper closed book questions, and log every single recurring mistake. That page becomes your patch notes. And once the bugs stop repeating, your marks will skyrocket. If you found this video to be useful, give it a like so you can always refer back to it when you need to, and follow for more similar content on systems. An example of my math, I didn't do highlighting, usually I do, but divergence theorem, and then I had what it was, because again I kept forgetting it. And then I've got Stokes theorem, fundamental theorem of vector calculus, Gauss's law for square inverse fields. Again, you can see that it's all the same format. So subheading, title, underline, the information I keep forgetting, and so on and so forth. And then I would have little explanation sheets for some areas with an exam question. So this was an exam question, and then I highlighted that, giving me full explanation of how I do it, just so I could reference it later on when exam season came around. So this was during the semester. This is a better representation. So this was diagonal matrix, blah, blah, blah. Again, I would do these even from the very beginning, and then I'd update it as I went along, just because there was a lot of definitions and some itty bitty things that you had to remember. Not even some, like loads, and so I just put it all in. This is just one, but there's a few inside here. 1, 2, yeah. So these are what the cheat sheets look like. As you can see, I have folded them in half lengthways, and then I've just got cracking